Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PS Blue podcast, available everywhere. This is episode 15. As always, I'm joined by Vinny, my cousin and co-host. How we doing today, Vinny?
Anthony, I'm doing really good. We're in a little bit of a calm before the storm mode here.
Right.
It's everything's coming. It's about to happen. Finally, we're gonna have some games to play.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It seems like it's going to be a very, very good time to play video games in the next, really, till the holiday season. It's there's so many things lined up down the road, but as I've said before on this channel, do not trust a release date because that's just the world we live in now. But anyway, are you playing anything right now that we need to know about?
Yeah, man. I'm playing The Last of Us Part 1, which we're going to talk a little bit later about in the episode. We're going to give some impressions on that, I know. But the other game that I've been playing outside of The Last of Us is Inscription. We've kind of mentioned it on the podcast. You've talked about Inscription, and I just want to put this out there immediately. And this is going to be very controversial, I know, particularly for you. I might be looking at my game of the year right now, based on what I've experienced, and that's including Elden Ring. That's including everything that I've played this year. This is, yes, I thought of Elden Ring. I know that you've,
let me interject.
Teased that Elden Ring's it. Go ahead. I know what you're.
I was just going to say when you said this is going to be controversial, I thought you were about to say Inscription was bad, and I got from my gut this rage. I was about to fight you about why Inscription is not bad. You're telling me Inscription is your game of the year. You haven't even played it yet, man. You have not even scratched the surface of this game. And a little bit of a cop-out because it came out last year. But the PS5
I'm only speaking, and I'm only speaking for me personally.
I'll allow it.
So
I'll allow
I'm
it.
not gonna. Yeah, we can debate whether it's last year or this year.
Yeah, go on.
All we want, but I have loved. I'm about 5 hours in, dude. It's so good. It's right up my alley. The exact kind of game that I'm looking for. It's so creative. It is. I cannot encourage enough. Everybody needs to go out play this game. It's $20 on the PlayStation Store. It is amazing. I am already at a 9, 10 out of 10, 5 hours in. I don't know how long the game's going to take. I don't want to know.
We're going to have to talk
in
about
love. It. We're going to have a spoiler cast on this game when I beat it to discuss all the different elements to it. But man, it is so creative. Oh, I am loving it. I love card games to begin with. So this is right up my alley. Easy game to pick up and play. Everybody go out, buy this game. I'm immediately impressed with what I've seen. So I'm happy that you recommended it to me. I know that you said this game was amazing to begin with. So it certainly lived up to that expectation.
When I am telling you, I could not stop thinking about it until I beat it. And I played it on PC. I would come home from work and immediately go on my computer and play it for like 4 hours. I think I beat it in 3 days. I was no, that's not true. It was a little bit longer than that, but I was obsessed with Inscription. Great game. Really happy you're playing it. Can't wait to see what you think about the direction the game takes. That's all I'll say. That's all I'll say.
I'm not good.
I don't want to spoil anything for you. But anyway,
it's
play Inscription. You playing anything else that we need to know about, or can I tell you a little bit about the games I've been?
No, go right ahead. Those are my two games. What about you?
So I've been playing this game called Omori, which actually my sister recommended it to me. It's an RPG, pixel art style. I'm not really too sure about the price point on the game. It was $30. I don't know how I feel about that. I wish it was 20. I feel like that was the sweet spot for the game. But other than that, this game is very, 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 very good. It has Undertale vibes. It has this sort of underlying deeper thematic story happening in addition to the surface level combat and some it has layers to it. That's the easiest way to put it. And I'm excited to uncover those layers. I'm also playing Bugsnax. I think I mentioned that last week. Great game. It's free right now on PlayStation Extra. Pick that up. And there was a third game I'm playing and it's escaping me right now. Oh, duh, Steelrising. We're going to talk about that later too, but I've been playing Steelrising. The game comes out in a few days. as of this recording, but the beta is out right now, and I just beat the first level. Really liking it so far, actually. But we will talk about that because Spiders, wow, what an interesting developer they are. But again, we're gonna get into that. We're also going to be talking about Call of Duty today. You know what? No, I'm not. We've sort of previewed the episode in and of itself. Okay. But before we do, the quote of the week. Vinny, congratulations. It's one of your quotes.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is in regards to Madden 23. Vinny said, quote, I am the moron that picked up Madden 23. I paid $70 for this game, and I'm so disgusted with myself. I got coerced by a few friends to do the online franchise mode, which is cool, but I played this 8 years ago. The exact same game, Anthony. They keep adding little things to this game, but fundamentally, it's the exact same game, and my goodness, Ultimate Team has destroyed this franchise. End quote. Vinny, do you want to defend yourself here?
Wow, very powerful message there. I appreciate the quote of the week honors. I stand by everything that I said here. I think that when you read it, it may seem like I'm just complaining to complain about Madden, right? And we saw a lot in our comments. I think we had uploaded a video of people defending the franchise. And listen, the frustrations arise. I don't think Madden itself, is a terrible game. Okay, what the frustrations are arising from. This is the exact same game it's been for the last 10 years. We've been paying $70 for a roster update for the last 10, 15 years. That's where the frustrations are. So for those of you that are maybe, defending the franchise, thinking that I bashed on it too much, listen, my frustrations are coming from the fact that there's nothing new every year. Right. This should be a free-to-play game. That's what it should be. And so hopefully I got that message across right for those defending the game itself. But I don't think I stand on my own in saying that, Anthony. I think you're right there with me.
Here's the thing. This game would still make an extraordinary amount of money if they went free to play, right? But they still are getting people to spend $60 to $70 on the game. We already talked about it last week, so I don't want to get too in depth on it, but I just do want to say this. The next gen version of the game is so much better than the current gen version. Okay.
Really?
And that's been that's been the consensus online. That's been the consensus from critics and people that are very hardcore Madden players. This game is the current gen version. They just abandoned it pretty much. It's the exact, even the animations and the intros. I looked it up. It's the exact same as Madden 21. They didn't really do anything with the current gen version. And I'm saying literally the exact same. Okay. Wow. Yeah. But this game's gonna continue to be $70 until the NFL license gets distributed to other developers. And I'm pretty sure EA just renewed their license. Did you see that?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
So,
it's a time for mourning,
Yeah, tough times
for
our
football game. Yeah, we're not going to get the football game we want. We're not going to get the football game we want for years down the line, 5, 10 years. This is almost a bummer. Are we going to die and we're not going to get any other football simulators? Are we going to die, Anthony, and not end up with anything other than Madden? Do you think this is eventually going to happen? This is it feels never ending to me. It really does. Two huge, big corporates partnering up. Dude, it's at least going to be another 10 years if I were to bet. Let
me offer something. Look at NBA. Look at the 2K versus the live games. The current gen version when the PS4, Xbox One era was considered quote unquote next gen, NBA Live released a game that was absolutely destroyed by players and critics. The game was just, people hated it, right? It just wasn't good. I don't think it ran very well, and it was just barren of features, okay? So they took a year off to compete with NBA 2K, which has by far the highest market share in the NBA sphere. But because there was a competition there, we're talking 2 games licensed by the NBA. NBA Live had a resurgence, and people still prefer 2K. But this is just like an example in a vacuum. People said that the newer NBA Live game was really good after they took that year off because they got, a ton of criticism for the one that was, I think it was 2K14. I want to say, I think that was the version. So this is going back years.
Yeah.
But anyway, they made a full 180 because they had to compete with NBA 2K. Okay, and as we know, NBA Live is EA. Is it not? I could be wrong. Let me Google it
NBA
really
Live
quickly.
is
But
definitely EA, 100%.
yeah, so this is the same, developer ish. They're developer / publisher, whatever you want to call EA. They're this big corporation, but it is the same company that is making a far superior basketball game because they have competition. It is the same company, and a perfect example that all they need is some competition in the market. That's literally all they need. And until that happens, we're not going to see another football game that is worth our time or money. Yet I am still tempted to buy NBA 23. I see it on there. John Madden being hoisted up into the air, waving at me. Anthony, buy me. I see it.
Oh, yeah. Madden 23? Sorry.
Yeah, Madden 23 because
yeah.
I'm ecstatic for football season. Even though my team is going to be trash, I still love football. But
I'm right there with you.
To all my non-football fans, I apologize that we keep ranting on Madden, but like I said, this is a very special place in both of our hearts, and we would be completely remiss if we didn't talk about it. But with that out of the way, let's dive into this episode. We have the headliner topic I want to talk about first, Vinny. This is it. We had a video on it. We had a lot of attention drawn to this topic everywhere. This topic is just swarming with people and traffic, and this is a topic that people cannot stop talking about. The Last of Us Part 1. Do we need it? Why is it here? It's great. It's terrible. I've seen everything on this game. I've seen every opinion on The Last of Us Part 1, but I want yours, Vinny. I want your opinion on the game because you played it. You shelled out $70, and I know we keep talking about this, but what? Why is the game $70? Maybe you can answer it for me, Vinny. Go ahead. Tell me about The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah, we've talked ad nauseum, it feels like, about this topic, so it's nice to finally have this game in my hands, be able to play it, and maybe provide some insight on the experience and whether I'd recommend it or not. I think that the controversy surrounding this game, before I get into my actual impressions of it, are obviously its price point. I'm not going to make arguments whether Naughty Dog should or shouldn't have made this game. I think that the controversy stems from the price point, $70. Now, if I were to recommend this game or not, it's going to come down to, it's all a matter of perspective. It's all a matter of perspective. Where are you coming from? And I can only speak for myself. And so I'll take you through my sort of history with The Last of Us, if you will, real quick. I played the original Last of Us on the PlayStation 3, loved it, 10 out of 10. The remaster came out 1 year later. This was 2014, I believe. I played through the beginning of The Last of Us remaster, the campaign, but I had just played the original game. There wasn't enough new there for me to really, warrant a full playthrough, though I did appreciate the 60 FPS bump that got, and it was an amazing experience, another 10 out of 10 experience. So here we are, 8 years later, Part 1 comes out. Anthony, I gotta be honest with you, I am loving this. This has been worth... I can't believe I'm saying it. I really can't, because I have been right there with you of there's no chance in hell I'm going to say this is worth $70, at least for me. Dude, this game is outstanding. This is still the 10 out of 10 game that we know and love. It's still the 10 out of 10 game. The added level of detail here, it's not minor. The game feels different from what like it feels like a totally almost like a totally damn near new experience from what I played from what I remember 8 years ago. Now a lot of that, like I said, is because I haven't played this game in 8 years. You know, it's not like I just played The Last of Us Remastered a year and a half ago. Anthony, this is amazing. Like the attention to detail here, like this is top tier red. It's not a surprise. I don't think that this is going to be a surprise, me saying this to you, because I think we had both mutually agreed that the level of detail and the game was itself was going to be amazing. And so it all comes down to that $70 price tag. And I never thought this game was going to win me over. Personally, from my perspective, from my experience with The Last of Us, I never thought it would win me over the $70 price tag. And I'll be honest with you, The Last of Us brand has kind of soured on me a little bit over the last few years since the second one came out. I was a little bit, you know, I didn't necessarily love the way that the direction went with its story. You know, obviously a lot of controversy around that. And so I felt like, do I really need to play the first one again? Is this something that I even want to get into? I know where the story goes. I didn't necessarily love the direction that it went. And in that process, I forgot just how incredible, perfect, to be honest with you, this game is. Dude, this is special. I got to be honest with you. This is one of those games that I'm playing through, and I'm, you know, you're playing through something that is unlike anything that we've really seen, if that makes any sense. And I know that the game came out 8 years ago. I get it. But I had forgotten just how much of a masterclass this game was. Dude, this is a 10 out of 10, and I'm loving it. I can't recommend it for everybody, and that's why I was hesitant, and you know, I wanted to preface everything with saying it's all a matter of perspective. You know, if you just played The Last of Us Remastered recently, I would even say in the last 3-4 years, don't spend $70 on this. Don't do it. You know all the story beats, you know all the elements. For me personally, I'd forgotten, I'd say 80% of the damn game. I know, you know, where it goes and, you know, the bigger story points. I remembered those. But I'm playing through, I'm about 6-7 hours in right now. I had forgotten damn near, I would say 85 to 90% of what I've played through right now. So I am loving it, dude. The attention to detail in this is really something else. I mean, even from the way that Joel reloads his gun, his pistol, every little animation, it is really, we're talking like top tier. I keep saying I said Red Dead Redemption 2 earlier because that's the game that I think has the best animations in as far as the history of gaming, as far as games have I played. This is right there with that. And the sound design, oh my gosh, dude, oh my goodness. Let me just say this also. If you haven't played The Last of Us, this is a must buy. This is worth $70. So if you have not played this game, I would even say if you played the original PS3 one and the subsequent PS4 one 8 years ago, this is worth $70, or at least in my mind it is. I know that's going to be very controversial. I think that when the reviews came out, we saw really positive reception to this game from critics. No surprise there, but I do think there's something. This is something that people need to play. Like they really need to play it, and I think they'll have a greater appreciation for all the little details that Naughty Dog's added here. I think that's when you'll start to really understand why this was made. And dude, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. Are you surprised by my impressions of the game? I know we had discussed. You are really wow. Yeah. So what part of my analysis, if you will? I know I talked on a huge rant there. What part are you struggling with here? Because I'm assuming it's how the hell am I validating this being worth $70? Is that what's rubbing you the wrong way?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is not a $70 game. I didn't pick it up, obviously, because I didn't want to spend $70 on it. But I've played the first one. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I really, really loved it. I probably beat it in 3 days because the story is just so compelling, and it is paced so perfectly, and it just pushes you through the game. It almost invites you to complete it. And it was innovative. It was so innovative at the time. And The Last of Us had so many games. The Last of Us influenced so many other games after it. But, and we already talked about the theory that you had, that they're training new they're training new employees, and they have a bigger staff now. And I get that, and I agree with that. And I think that this game, when you look at it from that perspective, was a very smart thing to do. It's very smart that they put it on PS5 only because they want to showcase the PS5. These are all great things, right? But you talk about the attention to detail. You talk about the way Joel reloads his gun. You talk about the story and just how this game is a masterclass. All of these things were true when The Last of Us came out already. Okay? Like, nothing has changed. This game is amazing. We already know that, though. If they released Uncharted 4 PS5, people would be losing their minds, because that game originally came out on the PS4. If it came out again on the PS5 and they made it $70, I don't care how amazing that game is, people would be infuriated. Do you disagree?
It's sad. I never thought that I would be put in this position to try to defend this game, and I don't want it to seem like I'm dude, I'm trying to explain this is a matter of perspective. And I'm telling you, I know that you said that, the way that he reloads his gun, big whoop. The emotional beats to the story have way more of an impact in this remake, regardless if you know what they are. The opening sequence of this game, I'll spoil it. I'm sure we've all played The Last of Us if you're on this podcast. When Joel's daughter passes away, I knew that was coming. Dude, I was getting teary-eyed. Like, the impact of those moments, it looks so real, it's almost jarring. It really is. It was like replaying the game again, but like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I'm trying to defend this game, and that's why I keep on saying it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of perspective. When was the last time that you played The Last of Us? Just out of curiosity, when was the last time that you played through the game?
When the original came out for the PS3.
So you didn't play the PS4 port?
No.
Oh my goodness. And I cannot wait for this game to get cheaper, because I know you're going to end up playing it. I do know that. I know that I think that we've discussed that. And I think you're waiting for it to reach a price point that you feel is appropriate. What do you think it's worth? Like, in your eyes, are you looking at $40?
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt this game had a lot of work poured into it. Okay? I'm not denying that. It's just a retread of another game. You see Ratchet and Clank, the original remaster. Damn, it gets so confusing with remasters and remakes, and
I know.
Excuse me for fumbling through this, but the Ratchet and Clank game that came out before the PS5 one, the one that sort of soft rebooted the franchise, that game was completely, it was the essence of the very first Ratchet and Clank game. All the levels were generally the same, but it was a completely different game. It was a completely different game. It was modernized. Okay, and then maybe you could say, oh, well, The Last of Us was so far ahead of its time, it was already modernized. So, yeah, I get that. But Ratchet and Clank for the PS4 was $40. Completely remade from the ground up. New animators, new voice actors, new everything. Is the voice acting different in this game, Vinny?
Oh no, it's the exact same.
I didn't think so.
Voice acting, no changes, nothing. There are no changes to the voice acting in this game. Anthony, I have a feeling here you're going to end up eating your own words. I really do. I was that impressed. And you know what's scary, Anthony? I'm telling you, I realized this early on. Like, I went in with the exact same mindset that you had, which is there's no way I'm going to sit here and say this game's worth it. I like at least the $70 price tag. It's not going to be worth it. Dude, I was 30 minutes in and I was hooked. I ended up playing for 7 straight hours. It is that good. Like, it is, I'm telling you, it plays different. It feels different to play. And those emotional moments, those, the story beats, dude, I had forgotten a lot of them. So that's why I'm prefacing everything by saying, it comes from where, have you played this game before? When did you play? I forgot a lot of the story beats. So maybe that's playing a role here for me. But dude, this has been worth every penny so far. I'll be totally honest, and I can't I can't elaborate enough on how surprised I am. Another thing that I do want to call out I think that people that have played this, I think are going to defend it more. I think you have to play it. I don't even know how to describe it. This is one of those things that you got to play to appreciate what there is here. It looks stunning, obviously. There's no surprise there. But I'm telling you, dude, I can't say enough good things. I am blown away by what I've played. I'm really blown away.
A couple more questions.
Yeah.
A couple more questions for you. So I don't want to argue anymore about the fact that it's not worth $70 because I'm 100% right and you're 100% wrong. So it's not. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But anyway, I wanted to talk. How do they utilize the DualSense? Is that it's factored in?
Yeah. I wish it was used a little bit more, to be honest with you. I was hopeful that it would be. It definitely uses it. Obviously, the shooting mechanics, when you zoom in, there's that, that resistance. There are rain sequences in the early portions of the game where you can kind of feel, the rain, on the controller, if you will, the vibrations coming through. And it does use it in a lot of different ways, but it doesn't. I'm only 6-7 hours into the game, so I really haven't been blown away. I haven't been like, oh my goodness, wow, this uses the DualSense unlike anything that I've ever played. Uses it very similar to the way that Horizon Zero Dawn used it, and
yeah, say no more.
Feels very similar to that. So I don't necessarily think it's, breaking new ground there.
Death Stranding director's cut is the opening sequence is an absolute masterclass, to borrow your words, on how to utilize the DualSense. That game, narratively speaking, that game was a complete game changer. It was a complete just innovator as far as you using the DualSense to experience a story. Because a lot of the times the DualSense helps you become immersed in the game because the triggers make you feel like you're actually pushing down on a trigger on a gun or on something, or you're walking through, like you said, rain, and it actually is immersive because you feel the rain driplets. But narratively speaking, Death Stranding director's cut is the epitome of the DualSense. So I was hoping that Naughty Dog, being such a proponent of a narrative-driven story, would utilize the DualSense in a very similar way that Death Stranding did. And my assumption here is in Death Stranding, they had a specific position designated for pacing and creating some sort of a script for the DualSense throughout the game. And that's just brilliant that they did it that way. And Kojima, I wouldn't even, think twice about him doing something like that. He definitely had an impact on that. I'm telling you, Vinny, I guarantee you, if you go to the credits of Death Stranding director's cut, you will see DualSense artist, DualSense something. I don't even know what you would call that position, but pretty much someone who was a part of that team just to script out the DualSense as its own embodiment of the story. I mean, The Last of Us Part 1, first party Sony game, DualSense, PS5. You would think that they would really drill that in more,
It's interesting. I think that they use the DualSense in the only ways that they could for this game. I'm not going to sit here and say they aren't using it. You know, there's haptic feedback, and maybe it's because I've gotten used to the DualSense at this point with all the games that we've been playing, like Deathloop and things like that. So I think that might be what it is. I'm sure it's, you know, particularly for people that are new to the PS5 that haven't felt that haptic feedback and those sort of that next level of vibrations that there are in the DualSense. That's there. Like when you're walking on certain terrain, you'll feel the terrain, very similar to Astro's Playroom. You know, that all that stuff is there. Don't get me wrong. I'm just not, you know, I'm not walking away saying, man, like, you know, the way this thing uses the DualSense is something that I've never seen before.
Right. And I was.
It isn't. Yeah.
I was with Death Stranding. That's what I'm saying. That's why I keep going back to that. Like I was blown away. There was part where there was like, I'll give you an example. In Death Stranding, the beginning, you go underneath a cave and it's raining, and they do it based on which side of the screen you're seeing. And on the left side of the screen, it was covered, and on the right side of the screen, it was raining. So the rain was only on the right side of your hand. And then when you walked out, it ended up being on both sides of your hand. It was just something that I couldn't ignore. It was so well done. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Did you play Death Stranding Director's Cut? So you know what I'm talking about. Do you disagree?
Very cool. Very cool. No, I do think that it used the DualSense in a very smart way, because also the environment in that game is so important. It's a huge component to that game itself, so it made sense for it to be a huge part of that DualSense, you know, experience. So I think that's probably
Excuse the tangent. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to extract as much information as I possibly can to justify why this game is so freaking expensive. It's just wrong.
It's worth just every penny, Anthony.
You can't even get your hands on a PS5. So you have to spend another, I mean, it's close to $100, $70. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost $100 for one video game that you've already played.
So would you feel better if it was 60? You know what I mean? So I'm trying to
40. I'm telling you, the Ratchet and Clank game was built from the ground up for the PS4. Completely new animations. Completely. Again, I apologize for repeating myself, but the game was $40. They're both.
Which game is this again? Which Ratchet and Clank?
Ratchet and Clank for the PS4. It came out, I believe, in 2018.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
It was $40.
Yeah, I think that game I don't think that game is nearly. I don't think that game.
Did you play it
in The Last of Us' class? Yeah. Oh yeah, I beat the Ratchet and Clank on PS4. It was outstanding. It was amazing. This is in a different category. This is in a different league of its own, if I'm being honest. Just the game itself. I'm telling you, Anthony, the way that the game deserved an upgrade like this, and I never thought it would until I actually got my hands on this. The HDR, dude, like, oh my goodness, I can't handle it enough. And I know you just bought that new television, right? That has that has better HDR. When you play this, you're gonna gain a huge level of appreciation for what Naughty Dog does with the lighting with this game. It might be the best lighting in a video game that I've ever seen, if I'm being honest with you. Genuinely, I'm trying to think if there's something that even remotely comes close. The way that, and I know it's all just settings or, you know, like different environmental things I'm talking about here. I'm telling you, dude, it adds up. Like, it does. It really, really does. The customization options are all there. Ah, man. And
okay, I got like two questions. Two questions.
Yeah,
and I want to make them quick. Answer them as quickly as you can so we can move on.
Sure. Yeah.
Question number 1. Is it an upgrade from The Last of Us Part 2?
No, I didn't play enough of The Last of Us Part 2 for me to be able to answer that, to be honest with you. If I were to guess, this is just a step up, barely, if you will, from The Last of Us Part 2. It's probably very similar. Yeah.
Okay. Second question. After getting your hands on it and for a very, reasonable amount of time, is it fair to say that this is something Naughty Dog wanted from the beginning? Or is this something Sony was pushing with the TV series and all of that happening? What do you think? What's
yeah,
your gut check on that?
I think Naughty Dog wanted to do it.
Okay,
I do.
that's what it sounded
after
like.
After playing it, I think this is Naughty Dog wanting to do this. It is a labor of love. The level of details unlike anything that I think I've ever played, if I'm being honest with you. Ahead of Red Dead. So it is unlike anything I've really experienced, at least in the last 5 years. At least. And I didn't play The Last of Us Part 2, so people might say that that's also, similar. I didn't. So this is just, it blew me away. It really did. It blew me away. I was stunned as to how impressed I've, been with this. So,
well, $70, like you get 15 hours of gameplay, and I'll leave it at that.
Oh, you could say that for everything, though. You could say that for 90% of. You could say that for 90% of the $70 games that are coming.
I gotta stop.
I bet you the Callisto
myself.
Protocol is going to come out in 2 months. I bet you that game's not.
It's a brand new
18
game
hours.
from a brand new studio. Okay,
you,
let's
Anthony.
Let's move on, Vinny, because we're just going to disagree on this over and over again.
I think you're going to play it and you're going to eat your own words. I really do.
No,
I think you're going to
100% will never see why this game is $70 ever. Ever.
I said the same thing a week ago.
No.
Until now.
No, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I eat my words. Like you said, I hope I come onto the podcast and make a public apology.
It's going to happen.
to Naughty Dog.
I'm going to request a public to me and
not Naughty Dog. Okay, I will apologize to you. I don't know if Naughty Dog had any discussion with Sony. I'm sure they had some discussion, but I don't think they specifically set the price for this game. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm sure they had a budget, and they had to, because they're Sony first party, so they had to talk to Sony about budgeting and getting a return on the investment that the production cost of the game, and I'm sure there was a discussion there, and I'm sure that Naughty Dog, being the caliber of studio that they are, told Sony, yeah, we value our work at $70 no matter what we put out. So, but at the end of the day, I think it's Sony. I think it's Sony being greedy, knowing people will pay $70 for it, and just putting it on the market for $70 because they can always lower the price and look like good Samaritans. You know what I mean? Oh, wow, The Last of Us Part 1's on sale for $45. Meanwhile, the Target MSRP should have been $39.99 this whole time. So I don't want to rant anymore on this. So I'll save it for, myself in my own brain, and maybe I'll talk to myself in a corner of my apartment and just get it all out of my system because it frustrates me, Vinny. All the little things are adding up, like we've already said, like we said last week. All the little things are adding up. But moving on. Call of Duty. This is a huge announcement. Okay? So let me really prepare our listeners for this. Call of Duty is going to become a part of Game Pass, pending the Activision deal being finalized. This article in particular is courtesy of IGN, and they say, quote, Call of Duty will become part of Xbox Game Pass, but launch on PlayStation on the same day. Activision Blizzard's library is on the way if the acquisition goes through. And Phil Spencer confirmed all of this. I guess Diablo and Overwatch, same sort of situation. You're going to see all these games on Game Pass. And obviously we're not speaking on Modern Warfare 2 because it hasn't come out yet. But, this is sort of the new normal for Xbox. These exclusive games or these games that are owned by Microsoft are going to be on Game Pass. This is a big deal, though. The second part of this. It's going to launch on PlayStation on the same day. Vinny, I need an explanation for this, because they could have done a timed release. They could have done even like a 3-month timed release. Maybe not a whole year, but if you have an Xbox and you have a PlayStation, just play it on Xbox because you can get it a couple months early. Or if you're in the market for a next-gen console and all you play is Call of Duty and you cannot wait, you're going to buy the Xbox because you can play the game a few months early. Why didn't they go that route? What is happening here? Take me behind the scenes of this.
Yeah, this was it's a huge announcement, but I think this is what I personally expected when they announced the acquisition last year. This was my expectation, at least. I don't know what your expectations were. It sounds like you thought, okay, they were going to release them exclusively on Xbox and a few months later go to PlayStation. Now,
Yeah.
I didn't think at all that that was going to happen. The reason being is because these properties are so huge. The blowback they would have gotten would have been, they would have never, the negative publicity wouldn't have been worth it. It just wouldn't have been. It really would have been a huge PR nightmare for Call of Duty, or for Xbox, if they made Call of Duty as massive as Call of Duty is exclusive on the Xbox platforms. They wouldn't be able to defend it. It would be a really bad look for Microsoft, in my opinion. It just wouldn't be worth it. Now, you could say that it would be worth it, and then on top of it, you have to think, Anthony, all the sales that they're going to get on the PlayStation console, they're going to get all that revenue. So it just made too much sense for me to release them day and date. And okay, fine, we'll release it on PlayStation for $70, but you could also just get it for free on Xbox. Not necessarily for free, but as a part of the subscription service. That was my expectation here. This is what I had assumed. I was not expecting them at all to even do a year-long, exclusivity deal for Call of Duty's going forward. Call of Duty's way too big of a franchise to do that with. It's bigger than even like Skyrim. Like, I know that they had said that they were going to make the next Elder Scrolls exclusive on the console while also releasing it on PC. That to me makes sense because that property, while massive, is not Call of Duty. It's not. So it's funny how he put in here Overwatch, because Overwatch 2 is a free-to-play game. So I don't know what he's saying that's going to be a part of Game Pass. Maybe he's talking about like a battle pass or some sort of exclusivity, deal or something like that. But it's just such a huge blow to Sony, man. This is a huge blow to have Call of Duty just drop day one on Game Pass, $70 on PlayStation 5 or, future consoles. Man, that is such a huge blow to Sony. Diablo, the next Diablo game, I think we're getting a fourth one next year. Day one on Game Pass, and especially now that games cost $70, it's just, man, that sucks. That really sucks. It's upsetting, and I'm not surprised by it. This was my expectation when the acquisition was announced. But dude, it's still just, it's like a gut punch, It really is. That's my 2 cents on the matter, man. It's just, it really is we're gonna start seeing this next year. If I were to bet, that deal's gonna go through early next year at some point in time. So my guess is the next Call of Duty, whatever comes out next year, that's when we're gonna start seeing this happen. So it's coming soon, and I don't think that, people like me and you that are really close to the, gaming news and read up on this stuff, we know about this, but the general public doesn't know this is coming. So next holiday season, Microsoft's going to be able to say, here, buy an Xbox for your kids, get them Game Pass. They just get the next Call of Duty. They get the next, these huge franchises that just, oh man. I think this is a huge gut punch to Sony. What about you, man? What are your feelings on this?
I mean, you say this all the time, but let's put ourselves in the shoes of a 14-year-old right now. Let's go back to 14 Anthony and Vinny. The value proposition here is insane. It's insane. If I was 14, video game Anthony,
Could you imagine?
I'm gonna ask my mom for an Xbox. I just am, and I know I am. Even when I was 14, I loved my PlayStation. I had an Xbox too. I had everything. I was, an early adopter. But the value proposition is it's unreal. And it's not something that Sony can compete with. They don't have the money. They just don't have the capital, and they don't really have the IP anymore
Nope.
to do it, unless they're going to make Horizon Forbidden West, or Horizon 3 and The Last of Us Part 3 and Uncharted 5 and God of War 3. Unless they're going to make all these games free to play, I mean, they're pretty much stuck in a corner. And there's no easy solution here. What you kind of see with this new PlayStation service, the new version of PlayStation Plus, again, I view it as they still see themselves as direct competitors to Xbox, because it's a business model that's very similar to their subscription service. So clearly they're trying to compete with them still, and they view it that way. But the extra tier is very good if you don't have Game Pass. You know what I mean? Like me. If you don't have Game Pass, the extra tier is very good. There's plenty of games on there that you can check out, some exclusive to Sony consoles. The problem here is the games that are third party, or the games that were already on Game Pass, are kind of, for lack of a better word, hand-me-downs from Game Pass. These are games that were already on Game Pass for 4 years, and now they're also on PlayStation, like some of the Ubisoft titles. It's like, who cares? Wow, you can play a Need for Speed game that's 6 years old on PlayStation Extra. Who, like, I don't.
And Anthony,
I don't know what else to say.
Call of Duty's a console seller, dude, and Sony very wisely has teamed with Activision over the last 10 years or so, I would say, to have that sort of brand recognition with Call of Duty. There's been that partnership that they've been doing for the last 10 years. And remember, before that, it was Microsoft. So originally I don't know if you remember this, when we were kids, all the DLC for the Call of Duty would always come out earlier on Xbox. And then that flipped, I want to say in 2010, 2011, sometime during that time frame. And ever since, Sony has been Call of Duty has been featured at their E3 presentations.
Right.
Call of Duty has always been associated with the PlayStation platform from a marketing standpoint. They're losing that now, because now Call of Duty is going to be, Xbox. Like you're going to walk into a Walmart, you're going to see Call of Duty, you're going to see the Xbox logo above it. You're not going to see a PlayStation logo anymore. Those things matter to the general public. It's going to be a huge deal when this stuff starts happening. It's gonna add up.
What's the end goal for Microsoft here? Because they're losing money right now. There's no doubt in my mind they're not losing money right now. What is the end goal? Do they eventually just raise the price of Game Pass once they have a target number of subscribers to the service? Is that sort of the plan?
They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to raise that price. There's no way you can keep making these acquisitions and not raise the price.
Right.
I don't see a way that they could get away with it. Now, what will that price be? What will that price hike be exactly? I don't know. But I'm assuming that's what their end goal is. I agree with you. There's no way they're making money off of these deals, which is probably why they have to put these games on the PlayStation platform as well. Anthony, the exact same thing happened with the Minecraft dungeon crawler game that came out, 2-3 years ago? That game was released on Game Pass day one, but was also released on the PlayStation platforms the exact same day, because they invested so much money into Mojang that they have to get that money back. You know what I mean? They have to recoup the funds that they're investing. This is too much money for them to just be tossing games on the Game Pass, like, without getting any sort of reimbursement here. So
okay, so you've already seen this with Netflix, and we like to pick up examples on the podcast. That was a good Mojang example. So I also want to pick up that Netflix is also a subscription service, one of the original subscription services to get as successful as they have become. They raised the price on their monthly fee. They also made it a lot more difficult to share passwords and login information. So, and they got a lot of bad PR for it. So what we're seeing with that we are eventually going to probably see the same thing with Game Pass. And it's going to be a very interesting sort of cycle here in the next 4 or 5 years in video gaming. It's
Yeah.
it's hard to
Crazy.
predict. It's really hard to predict what's going to happen, but Microsoft has so much more capital than Sony. And they didn't have the IP, so they went out and got the IP. That was the one thing that Sony had over Microsoft. They had so much more exclusive, just rock solid games. They don't have that now. So what value does the PlayStation have over Xbox? I'm gonna ask you first because I have an answer, but tell me, Vinny, what value does PlayStation have over Microsoft, over Xbox?
You're saying just going forward at this point with this Activision Blizzard deal? Yeah. I agree, man. I like with everything that you just said, Sony can't just live off of their own IPs going forward. There's no way. If I'm Sony, let me just say this. I'm buying Square Enix. I don't know how much it's going to cost. You have to start acquiring some of these studios because Microsoft's still probably looking to acquire additional, studios going forward. But just wanted to throw that out there because it's a studio that I always think of whenever we talk about these acquisitions. Somebody really smart is going to pick up Square Enix with the direction that they're headed to with all their games that they're releasing. But I don't know if there is much of a strength that Sony has outside of their own IPs. And maybe you could say their hardware, their peripherals, the DualSense, the VR that's going to come out is going to be top tier. Things like that, Sony has obviously been very good at and continues to be very good at. But there's going to be a game of cat and mouse here. There just is. When Sony owns Bungie, when Bungie releases their next game, are they going to make that Sony exclusive?
No, they've already said they won't.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And they've already said that they aren't. They've already said that they aren't. So that's what I mean by cat and mouse, where Sony's going to be a lot more, hesitant to maybe make some of these games exclusive going forward. Now, I don't see.
It's a good point.
I was just going to say, I don't think we're going to see first-party games, these well-known, like we're not going to see Horizon on an Xbox console. I'd be stunned.
Hold on, though. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Let's backpedal a little bit here because you just brought up a really good point. Bungie, Destiny is a huge IP. They could turn around and do the exact same thing that Microsoft just did. Oh yeah. Destiny's coming out for all the Xbox consoles. It's coming out for PC. Enjoy spending $70 on it because it's going to be on PlayStation Extra for free. There you go. There.
It's a good point. It's a good point. I would be shocked if they did it, though. I would be shocked.
You would be shocked if they did do it?
Yeah. I would be shocked at this point. Sony seems very, very reluctant to release games on that pass for free. I would be shocked if they decided to go that route. Was that?
We're kind of all over the place right now, but I did want to bring up one more example, and sure. It escaped me, but I just remembered it, so I think it's an important one, and it's a game published by Square Enix. So Outriders was in the top 10 when it came out in sales on PlayStation, and it came out day one on Game Pass. So that's your proof right there that this is a sound strategy for Microsoft. It came out day one on Game Pass, but it was also a top 10 game on PlayStation. They made a ton of money off of Outriders. So, not Microsoft, but Square Enix did. I'm just saying it's the same sort of situation. So that's
I mean, but you said,
Go ahead.
Sorry, Anthony, I didn't mean to cut you off there because you had said that we were kind of going all over the place with the topic itself. There's so many different ways that this can play out.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard not to let your mind, there's so many different things that can happen from this. Like the deal is just so big. I am fascinated by what's going to happen. Like it's fun to do theories and to, how are they going to react to certain things going on and stuff like that. it's just the next 5 years are gonna be crazy. We're gonna see things that we just haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Whether that be, and my guess is it'll probably be a Sony first party starting to trickle into that PC Game Pass, like continuing. We talked about last week Death Stranding. I think
It's a
that's the
terrible
first
idea.
of many. I think that's the
I
first
don't
of
like
many
that
that
idea
we're
at
going to
all.
see.
Here's my
do.
answer. Here's my answer to my own question about what separates Sony from Microsoft. Because there is an answer, I think. I think Sony still does have a lot of value. First of all, I think the console is way better than the Xbox console. I just do. I've played both. I we've talked about a lot of features that the Xbox Series X has, and I think that there are some that are done better than PlayStation, but you cannot beat the DualSense. It is the best controller I've ever held in my hands ever. And that is not an overstatement, excuse me. But in addition to that, you already said it, Vinny, the peripherals, VR, PlayStation has VR. They're going to need to push the crap out of VR. They just are. They have no choice. That has to be a big part of their sort of fiscal plan going forward. They have no choice. They have literally no choice.
It's a good point.
That's one of the big things that separates them. And here's the third thing. Sony is not just the same way Microsoft makes computers. Sony makes movies. Okay, they have Sony Pictures. They have the Last of Us series going on right now. They could take Destiny and spin that into a series or a movie or something along those lines. Why wouldn't Sony make their own subscription service? You know, you got all the Spider-Man movies, and you have the new Last of Us show, and whatever else they're cooking up. Like, you might see that in the future. And don't forget where you heard it first. You heard it on the PS Blue podcast. Sony's going to have their own streaming service. But anyway, I think that's what separates them is their brand as an entertainment company. I really think it's going to benefit Sony to just go all in on their brand. They're a boutique, story-heavy studio company that pumps out really, really high-quality games that tell a story. We talked about that commercial several weeks ago about the new PlayStation Plus, and that's exactly what they did. They said they had this older gentleman walking around talking about all the adventures he had been on, and they were pushing that sort of idea that Sony is storytelling. Sony is entertainment, and they have to push their brand in that direction. That is their goal. That should be their goal. Excuse me. That should be their goal, is to just push that down the consumer's throats. You can go on Xbox and play video games, or you can go to Sony. You can go to PlayStation and have a story to involve yourself in, to wrap your head around. That, in my opinion, is what separates them from Microsoft, and that is the direction that they need to just continue to head down. And I think they already are.
Yeah, I agree. And I had mentioned maybe potentially acquiring additional studios to kind of have at least some sort of, some sort of answer to what Microsoft is doing, to have the ability to maybe withhold games from them if they decide to, make games exclusive. You know where my mind went? I talked about Square Enix would be very wise. You know what's a studio that would be, not to go too long on this subject, but From Software. I think that could be something that would be huge.
Absolutely.
If Sony bought From Software, that would be a massive, massive answer to what Microsoft is doing right now. Because there's no way that, Microsoft is, Elden Ring is a monster. So, and that's just, that's a studio in my mind. Yeah.
They haven't been as mainstream right now as this is as mainstream as they've ever been, is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So Microsoft certainly doesn't want to lose those games. So, you know what I mean? At least having those sort of games in your back pocket to maybe have an answer to what Microsoft is probably inevitably going to do, which is make the games exclusive, but I don't think it's going to happen immediately.
No.
I think it'll be long-term play there.
So I was talking about, Sony as an entertainment brand.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that is super relevant to our next topic, which is the Days Gone movie rumor. Pretty self-explanatory. There is and this is courtesy of Gizmodo.com. Quote, Days Gone may be getting a movie, still no sequel. And they go on to say, guess it'll be Sons of Anarchy meets Walking Dead, if that sounds fun to you. End quote. So this is just a rumor for now, but it seems to have some legs and some credibility based on this article that I'm reading. And this is actually, I'm on this Gizmodo article, but they reference the website Deadline. And according to Deadline, the game is receiving a live action film treatment. They don't have a director yet, but they have a writer. Up in the air is Sheldon Turner, and a potential star in one of Outlander's, main actors. So anyway, this is getting cooking. It's in the pre-production, or not even pre-production, probably the development stage still. And it seems like they are going to go through with this. The Days Gone movie. The worst part of Days Gone was the story. I mentioned that in my review of the game. It was my least favorite part of the game. So they could have picked a different franchise, man. But I get it. Walking Dead is insanely popular. Sons of Anarchy was insanely popular. I think Gizmodo did a great job referencing two massive franchises, but I did not play Days Gone and go, oh my God, they need to make this into a movie. What's your gut check on this, Vinny?
Man, I'm right there with you. It's funny because we've never really seen a lot of video game adaptations, to the big screen, the transition to the big screen. So it's interesting to see Sony make this much of a push into their IPs going on the big screen, or, going into the TV show realm. We know The Last of Us is coming out. They're also doing God of War. They're doing a movie on that, or a TV show, I think. Horizon's getting a TV show. Ghost of Tsushima's getting a movie.
Those all make sense. Those all make sense.
Yes,
especially Ghost of Tsushima.
Exactly.
I think Ghost of Tsushima is going to be phenomenal. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, I can't wait for that either. I'm hoping that this is a turning point for, video game movie adaptations. Like the Assassin's Creed movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I think that was the most recent one. Awful. Might have been one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Terrible.
Might have been one of the worst movies ever. They did, obviously, what was it? Lara Croft, which that movie was actually pretty good, but it's not getting any sequels. It didn't do very well in the box office, so that's
Resident
unfortunate.
Evil as well was the only one that really went on for a while. I think
and those movies are terrible.
They were okay.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible. Not good. They're not good. Let's shoot it straight. We don't mess around here on the PSBP podcast.
I do think that I will say this, because I know we're going to talk about the show, when the episodes start pouring out here. The Last of Us, from what we've seen, looks like it's going to be a good TV show. Like, I'm actually genuinely interested in watching that. So I'm hoping that starts to turn the tide, so to speak. Can we start getting good video game adaptations here on the big screen? I still want to see a BioShock movie. I think they're actually doing one of those. I know that's not Sony related, but that's always been the game that I've just would love to see on the big screen, or at least as a TV show or something. But these things just never really work. The Halo TV show that just came out was not well received by the community. People hated it. So Sony has an interesting push here, but I think their IPs are strong enough to be successful on these levels, because the games are already movies. Like they pretty much are. So it's hard to mess these things up.
I'm going to cut you off right there and just say, like, we discussed this a bunch. Games are not movies. They're not. They're two different forms of entertainment. They're two different art forms. Okay? There's a reason why game movies are not usually that great, and it's because they're two different mediums. They're written completely different. You look at a game and you say, okay, this is going to be an amazing game because we can expand this story out so much and utilize gameplay to enhance what's happening here. I think you hit it right on the nose though, Vinny. Sony has strong IP. They do. Okay? So the story should not emulate the story of any game. It just shouldn't. Like I said a million times, these are two different forms of entertainment. I would not take The Last of Us's story from the video game and turn it into a movie, turn it into a TV show. Maybe it is great. Maybe you're right, Vinny. We're going to talk about it on this podcast. But what I would have done is I would have taken that world and created something original out of that world. Because, again, a story written for a game is inherently different than a story written for a movie, than a story even written for a television series. They are different forms of entertainment, okay? They should not be copy and pasted. And I think that's where the problem lies. It also doesn't help that, the budget is usually on the lower end and the actors are usually not really great. But one thing that's consistent across the board for any video game movie that I've seen is the writing's always terrible. And it's because they're adapting it from the game like you would adapt a book. That's not the strategy, in my opinion. The strategy should be to take some of these really original IPs and craft an original story out of it. We're going to talk about Steelrising in a little bit, but you wouldn't take the story of Steelrising and make a movie out of it. It would be awful. But this sort of world with these Victorian era mechs, it's a cool concept. You'd have to spin it in a different direction for a movie. That's all I'm saying. They're two different. And I know I'm repeating myself, and I apologize for that. But I really think they need somebody to look at it differently. I think you can only throw something at a wall so many times, before you just give up. You can't do the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. That's literally insanity. Okay, so maybe The Last of Us surprises me and the show and is really good, even though it seems like they're following the story. But Naughty Dog is usually the exception to the rule. The writing is so pristine in, I want to say, almost all of their games since the first not the first Uncharted, but since the second Uncharted. The writing has been so pristine that it will most likely excel in any form. You can make a Last of Us novel and it would probably do well, but as far as all these other IPs, as far as all of these other franchises, just do something different, do something original, do something that was built from the ground up for the medium that you intend to put it on, okay? Because you can make a Star Wars video game great. Do you know how Respawn did that? They made their own game. They made their own story. If they would have made a Star Wars game based on the original trilogy, we've already seen that. The Skywalker Saga, the Lego game, wasn't received particularly well. It's fine. So it goes both ways. It goes both ways. Vinny?
Yeah. No, man. I agree with everything that you said. I'm just, me and you, we look at this topic, Days Gone movie. We know what this movie's going to be. I hate to be that guy. I have no interest at all. This movie's going to be a wet fart at the box office. It's not going to be anything special.
Wet fart.
This thing's going to be a wet fart when it comes out in the box office. Nah, this thing's going to stink. It's not going to be any good. Wet fart.
Writing is so crucial. Okay, acting can only get you so far, and acting is an art. I don't want to discredit actors out there. It is such a hard thing to do, is be a successful actor. But you could cast Tom Cruise, that's a bad example, but whatever. I mean, you could cast all household names and the movie could still suck because the writing is terrible. Okay? An actor can't deliver an organic performance if what's on the page isn't realistic and isn't from a place of truth and isn't good. You know, let's just say it how it is. If the writing sucks, that will come through in the performance. It's just, it is what it is. So to sort of contradict what I said earlier, even if you have a big budget, you know, like the HBO series Will in The Last of Us, the only reason why we have high hopes for that, or at least I think we both do, is because, like I said, the writing is pristine for The Last of Us, that it could bend mediums like that because it just has such a good foundation. But I mean, that's really all I have to say about all this. Do you have anything on this topic, Vinny?
No, I agree with everything that you said, man.
Okay.
I think I do think The Last of Us is going to be good, though. Also, because it's HBO, I feel like their shows are typically, you know, at least decent. You know, they're not a studio or at least a publisher of these that are terrible. They don't do that.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic, which is the new PlayStation Plus games. First, I wanted to talk about the free games of the month for the Essential tier, and we have Need for Speed Heat. We also have Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, and a game called Toem. These are like, all three of these games are mouthfuls. Well, not Need for Speed Heat, but the other two games are sort of. Grand Blue, and this is courtesy of blog.playstation.com. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus is a fighting game. Studio Arc System Works. Okay, I'm just trying to process this. I've never heard of this game. Grand Blue Fantasy. It's based on the Arc System Works sort of, I guess, fighting game style. Do you know anything about this? Grand Blue?
No, I had never heard of it up until these games had come out. Maybe it'll surprise us.
This other one, Toem, it's a black and white photo adventure. Kind of seems like it might be reminiscent of Pokemon Snap, maybe? Ish, something like that. It looks kind of cool. It's on the PS5. So we got that. And Need for Speed Heat, couldn't care less about it. Got to be perfectly honest with you.
Me either.
So, you know, this is what we were talking about. You are pumping out all these games into your extra and premium tiers, and the Essential tier is inevitably going to suffer. You know, we had a pretty strong lineup last month, but you see it here, folks. This is not looking too hot. I don't know, man. You are going to see this trend, I promise you, in October, November. Maybe not December, because it's, you know, December is a very big month for video games. November is arguably pretty close, but you know, in the future, these PlayStation Essential games are going to be straight garbage, in my opinion. Write in, please write in if you have a more positive opinion on Toem and Grand Blue Fantasy Versus and Need for Speed Heat than we seem to have, because I don't really care about any of these games. The only game I really will actually download is the PS5 one, Toem. Again, apologize if I'm saying the name wrong, but I think that's how you pronounce it. So that's what we got. Vinny, any more comments on those games? I just wanted to make sure that we covered it a little bit here.
Oh, makes sense. I'm happy that Deathloop's going to be on the extra tier. That's
right.
Cool.
I was getting to that.
You know,
thank you for stealing my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I was going to say that.
So, no, you're fine. Like I said, Essential tier is going to be straight trash. Oh, Chicory. Oh, sweet. I was going to buy that game. Awesome. I just noticed that. So Chicory's under the radar game of the year material right there. That game I'm definitely gonna check out. I think it's like $25. So that's awesome. So on the extra tier, we have games. Let me just make sure I'm getting this correct. Okay, so Deathloop is going to be on the extra tier. Assassin's Creed Origins is going to be on the extra tier. Watch Dogs 2, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Spiritfarer Farewell Edition, a game I just freaking bought. Damn it, man. This always happens to me every single month. They got me again. Yep. The game was on sale for $9. I said Spiritfarer looks cool. I needed like a chill game. It's like sort of you're simulating the, I guess, afterlife Charon sort of story. I don't know. Anyway, it seemed cool. I bought it for $9 like a freaking idiot.
Oh.
Ooh. Sorry.
Well, you got me excited for it. I can't wait to go on my PS5 and download it now for free. I'm excited.
Whatever. I got a big win here. I got a big win here with Chicory, a Colorful Tale. Blah, blah, blah. That's a mouthful. I'm not going to edit this one. I've been doing this the entire podcast, and I'm going to leave that blah, blah in there because I can only edit so much. So, Anthony, leave this one in there because our listeners deserve the truth. I've been fumbling through this episode. This is my only day off this week. You know what? Whatever. But Chicory, a Colorful Tale. It's supposed to be very, very good. So I'm excited to check that out. And you know, the list goes on. There's even more games. I want to make sure that I highlight premium tier. Okay, so for premium tier, Siphon Filter 2, the Sly Collection for PS3, Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time for PS3, all games that were already available on PlayStation Now. Like, they're acting like this is some phenomenal lineup. I posted a video for this already. PlayStation Premium is a waste of money. Do not buy it. I accidentally didn't downgrade back to the $14.99, so I already wasted another $3 of my hard-earned cash on stupid premium. Premium's not good, everyone. Okay? It's not good. But extra tier, everybody should be subscribed to extra tier because it is the new PlayStation Plus as far as I'm concerned. I really feel like they're just going to kill the $9.99 one eventually. I really do. Because they're going to see numbers that are so poor for Essential that they're just going to nix it. I think. Because I don't think anybody is going to have it Essential, honestly. Again, not to recycle terms, but the value proposition from Essential to Extra is just, it's night and day. It's so much more value for Extra. So Essential, really, really bad. Extra tier, really, really good. That's the summary here. Vinny, talk to me. I'm rambling. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I agree with everything that you're saying. I do think that Sony is the type that's going to be a little stubborn about nixing the premium one. So I don't think we'll see that for years. I think they're just going to hold their cards to their chest and just they're just going to keep it out there, if I had to bet. They made too big of a deal of these tiers for them to just nix one, you know, in a very short time frame. So I think we're looking at least 5 years of this, if I were to guess. Maybe after 5 years they'll nix it. I do think they ultimately will. I just think it's going to be a little longer than maybe you had initially anticipated. Just because Sony's one of those type, you know, Sony's that type of studio that we've seen some anti-consumer practices lately, a little bit of stubbornness. I think that they're going to be a little hesitant to just give up on the premium tier. They want that extra money, and I'm sure people are, not to say people are oblivious, but they're not understanding that there really isn't a big difference between the premium and the extra, which is why we've preached on this podcast up to this point to just go with the extra. So it's just, they're probably seeing funds roll in for the premium version. People probably just bought it and didn't realize what they were getting, you know, didn't realize that they aren't really getting any additional value for what they're paying for. So they're going to be stubborn about it. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, I'm really mad at myself just based on principle that I didn't, because I swear I canceled it and went back down to the extra tier. I did it just for the Roller Drome demo. Talked about this last week, so I'm not going to harp on it, but Apparently I didn't. Apparently, because they just charged me $17.99, so that kind of sucks. But I'm telling you, man, these extra tier games are really, really good. Deathloop is one of the best games you can play on the PlayStation 5. Chicory is supposed to be in the Game of the Year conversation. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is also really good. Assassin's Creed Origins, that game is amazing. It is the first of the 3 new Assassin's Creed games that have the revamped sort of gameplay systems, I would say. That it's more of an action RPG. More of an RPG than an action RPG, I should say. But ooh, what a slap in the face for the essential tier. They could have made Toem on the extra tier and put Deathloop on the essential tier. You know what I mean? Because Deathloop should have headlined that, in my opinion. But whatever. We're used to this now, Sony. Just here's my bank account number. It starts 712. No, I'm just kidding. But I might as well. You know what I mean? Like, they really want. Again, this goes back to our earlier conversation. They have to stay afloat somehow, Vinny. So on one hand, they're doing a lot of anti-consumer things, but on the other hand, can you really blame them? Because look at their competition. So, moving along. The next topic we have is Steelrising. This game comes out in a few days, and I have played it. I got my hands on the closed beta. I completed the first level, and I have a lot to say about Steelrising. So, Vinny, I'm gonna let you talk first, though. Do you have any other feelings on Steelrising? I know you were this was like the one that you said, I don't want to play this at all. That's what you said.
This was the one with robots exclusively, if I'm remembering, or pretty much it had looked like it was robots.
Yeah.
I was very, very lukewarm on the trailers that we watched, so I have zero interest in this game. However, maybe you can convince me. I don't know what you thought about the game at all, but I can't wait to hear you rip on this game. So go ahead, Anthony. What do you think of Steelrising? You gotta tell me.
Okay. So I did say Victorian era earlier, and I just looked up when the Victorian era was. I think Steelrising predates the Victorian era by a little bit. So just want to make sure that we have the facts right on the PS Blue podcast. It's Marie Antoinette. So it's a little bit before the Victorian era. Just wanted to clarify. Okay, but it's that, if you know what the Victorian era is, you can sort of imagine what Steelrising is. But let's dive right into it. So Steelrising. Okay, so let me just say this first and foremost about Steelrising. The game has already exceeded my expectations because I had such a low bar set for this game. That's right off the bat. Is it a masterpiece? Absolutely not. At least what I've played so far, I'm not going to sit here and say it's great. I will say it's good. I think when the podcast started, I think I did say I was liking what I was playing, or it was great or something like that. I really want to go play it. Like, genuinely. I want to quit the podcast, and that's the game I'm thinking about right now when we're done recording. It's very interesting, is what I will say. Now, the developers of Steelrising, they're called Spiders, and you might know them from a number of games. Greedfall is probably their best received game, I would say. And Greedfall, it came out in 2019, and it borrows from the older BioWare games, is what I would say, is sort of the inspiration of Greedfall. So if you liked Knights of the Old Republic or Mass Effect, or, maybe even like Neverwinter Nights to a lesser extent, that's what you're getting in Greedfall. So very, you have freedom in the way that you play, and you can build your character a certain way. Very, very RPG heavy type of a game. Dialogue trees and all that good stuff. Greedfall I really enjoyed. I didn't beat it. I played it for maybe 15 hours, and then I just sort of fell off of the game. But I did want to go back to it, and I really liked it. But here's the thing with all of Spider's games, I will say. They always swing for the fences. Every game they make, they are just swinging for the fences. They're always doing something creative and different, and I respect the hell out of them for that. They don't always hit that home run, though.
Yeah.
Some of their games are just not good. They're just not good. Like the Technomancer, I didn't play it, excuse the clicking, but the Metacritic score for the Technomancer is a 56. Got a 6 on GameSpot, 4.9 on IGN, so, you know, problem game. Really cool idea, though. It's about Mars being colonized, and it's set during the War of Water, 200 years after humans colonized Mars. So, like, a really interesting idea. I'm just reading off of Wikipedia, by the way. I don't know anything about that game. So, Bound by Flame was another game that they made. That game is always on sale for $2 on the PlayStation Store. They made a couple of Sherlock Holmes games. So, you know, they are a smaller studio. Just doing a quick bit of research, about 20 plus employees. So they're a small studio, but they always try something really, really above their pedigree. I don't want to use that word but above their weight class, let's say. They always try to do something a little bit bigger than what they are actually capable of. And I respect the hell out of them for that. So what does that boil down to? What am I getting at here? Steelrising has some glaring technical issues. Okay? They're not game breaking, but they throw you out a little bit. Okay? That's the first thing I'm going to say. So Vinny, maybe not a game for you to pick up right now. Because I know you're big into performance. The game runs really well. It does run really well, but there are some texture pop-ins and there is some lag here and there. I do want to say this, it is in beta, okay? It is in beta. The game does not come out for real until, I want to say, the 9th of September, excuse me. It's the 8th or the 9th. Let me quickly wrap my head around that. Greedfall release date. Excuse me, guys. I apologize. Oh, not Greedfall. Why did I say Greedfall?
So
Go ahead.
While you're looking that up, Anthony,
Yeah.
the game is in early access?
September 8th.
Right here? We don't really see that a lot on PlayStation, that the game is released early.
Yeah.
This is pretty unique. I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought it was fully out.
No, so what they've done is I think they released the first 2 levels of the game in quote unquote beta form about a week early. So it comes out, I was right, September the 8th. Yeah, comes out September the 8th.
Interesting.
So you have to pre-order it in order to gain access to that. And the game's $49.99, and that's a little steep, I would say. I think $40 would have been the sweet spot for this game. $50 is it's a little high. It's a little high, I would say. But having said all of that, getting all of that out of the way and out into the open, you know, performance issues aside, like I said, I don't want to judge the game based on performance issues right now, as it is still in beta technically. Spiders has been known to struggle with performance and things of this nature in their video games. So that's a red flag for me. You know, I'm not going to judge the performance for the final release of the game quite yet, but it is a red flag, you know, at first glance. If they had a developer, like one developer from Respawn, come in and just like clean all their shit up, they would be these games would be so good because they are so different. It is so unfortunate that there's that little barrier of entry there in the performance. So I hope it gets ironed out by the time the game's fully released. But with all of that out of the way, it runs so much better than that first gameplay trailer that we saw where we were like pretty much tearing it a new one. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that at all. The environments are really cool. The graphics are nothing amazing, but not bad. Right? You know, middle of the ground, I would say, but the art direction is very good. And that's so strong. That's their strength, I would say, Spiders. Their art direction in all of their games, I think you could argue, is very strong. So it's very, very different. Like I said, think of Victorian era. Like I said, it's a little bit before Victorian era, but think of that style, add mechs to it, and add some pretty decent combat. I gotta say, the combat in this game, I think, is better than the combat in Thymesia. And I haven't played a ton of that game, but I'm liking the combat more in Steelrising. I just am. It's a little bit more straightforward, I would say. It's a little bit it's very, very Bloodborne, I think, is the comparison that I will make. It doesn't really play like Elden Ring, but it does play like Bloodborne. You got a lot of like high risk, high reward situation sort of happening in the combat. There's this frost mechanic that is really cool, and the weapons, I've already unlocked like 4 or 5 weapons, and I've only played for a little more than an hour, and every weapon has a special type of move, a special type of ability. So they really did their homework on what makes a Souls game unique and what makes a Souls game enjoyable and replayable and fun. And they took that homework assignment, if you will, and really took it to heart in this game. I'm really, really impressed with the combat. I really am. And it's not, it's not Elden Ring quality. It's not Bloodborne quality, but it's close. It's very close, I have to say. And it's hard. They don't pull any punches. The game is hard. It's hard. It took me, I've probably died 10, 15 times already. And I play a lot of Souls games. So, I would say probably half of those deaths are me just trying to figure out what's going on with the controls and all the different moves and things of this nature. But the leveling system is very straightforward. And here's what it does differently. So you get a compass, and the compass actually points you to the exact location of your goal. And it also points you to the location of your lost souls. So it's a little bit more accessible in that regard. You also have a jump button, which is awesome. Love the jump. You can jump R2 to do like a jump attack, sort of like an Elden Ring. So it has a nice mix of things going for it. But like I said, with the compass sort of thing here, it has its own unique flair in that way. And then it also has a very, so far it's been pretty boring, to be perfectly honest with you, but the story is like kind of like, I don't care, but they're trying to set up the story, and they want you to be involved in the story. So that's one of the things that I'm not going to see if it pays off until later. But they did this with Greedfall as well. Greedfall, the story was a very, very heavy part of the game. I just really, like I said, I can't stress this enough. If they had one person from a big time developer come in there and clean up all their, I'm sure it's something way over my head as far as, I don't know, coding or just like the way they load in assets and textures, there's something there that they can optimize. And if they optimized that and just optimized their performance a little bit and it got a little bit more of a feeling of a AAA game, the foundation is there for Spiders to just really have a home run of a game. And I really just really like the history of this developer, all the different risks they've taken. They were recently acquired by Nacon, which was Big Ben. Now they're, Big Ben is now Nacon, for those of you that don't know. But so they have a new acquisition and they're under, I guess, new leadership or something, but the publisher is different. They were published by Focus Home Interactive for their entire life. And Steelrising is the first game that Nacon is publishing. So it's a little different for them. We'll see where they go. And just doing a little bit of service level research. I'm trying to see if Nacon owns anything. This is out of France, by the way. I'm trying to see if they own anything like higher tier, for lack of a better term, that they could get a developer to come in there and sort of optimize their games. No, not really. Spiders is kind of maybe this one. Daedalic? I don't know how to pronounce that. Daedalic? Oh, God, please don't write in. But they're a good developer. You know which developer I'm talking about, right? Daedalic.
I've never heard of them, but I for sure as hell can't pronounce that either. I'll tell you that much.
Well, they're making the Gollum game. So,
oh well, that would explain why I've never heard of them. Golly, I'm sure it'll become a household name soon enough.
So this is hard. They don't really have the support of and they need it. They just need one or two people to really push them over the edge. And I think you need to play this to fully understand what I'm talking about, Vinny. But I think you kind of have a clue as to what I'm saying. What are your impressions of my early thoughts on Steelrising?
Well, it's funny because I was thinking to myself, when we gave first impressions to this game, I was very negative, obviously. I think my negative criticisms came from the demo that we were seeing. It looked very store brand Bloodborne. That's kind of the vibe that I was getting. It was a dark, gothic environment. It was machines. It didn't look very interesting. It didn't look as compelling as Bloodborne. And you talked a little bit about it. The game looked like it was running really almost like janky. Didn't really look as crisp or, as I would like those types of games to be. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of watching videos on it now, like updated, newer videos on the game. And you spoke to it, and I'm glad you did. There's actually a lot of variety here to the environments. I'm kind of flipping through right now about a 2-hour gameplay segment here, and none of them are taking place really in a dark, dreary Bloodborne environment, which I like. I don't need another Bloodborne. I don't need you to tell me that you're not Bloodborne, because believe me, I already know. So don't put me in a Bloodborne environment just to remind me even more that you're not in that game, because that's one of my favorite games ever. And can I just say this? It doesn't help that the woman's hat is literally the same hat from Bloodborne. I don't know if maybe it's this demo, but maybe it's the hat that the woman's wearing looks almost identical to the one from Bloodborne. Or am I taking crazy pills for thinking this? I'm assuming they have different ones.
Yeah, but it's different equipment. Okay. So it's just this particular...
So it's different equipment. Yeah. Maybe it's this particular demo, but it's not helping me in my impressions. It's not a, giving me any sort of positive vibes there. But I just want to say this, and it's funny that you're playing this game now and that you got this game and you're giving impressions, because I'm going to be honest with you, man. Different game, but relevant. Elden Ring, dude, it just punched me in the mouth so hard over and over and over again when that game released. I am still just not in the mood for a game like this, which is so funny because Elden Ring was so long. I want to say I was 60 hours into Elden Ring. That was what Elden Ring came out 6-7 months ago, and I'm still at the point where these games, dude, I can't do it. I can't put myself through it right now. I'm not mentally prepared for a game such as this right now. These difficult games, the game's clearly, inspired by Dark Souls based on what we're seeing, inspired by probably Bloodborne the most. I think that's the game that stands out. It's very quick twitch, very faster than a Dark Souls game. But Elden Ring, man, I think it's relevant to this game because it just really took me out of these games for right now, at least. I'm still recovering from the Elden Ring experience. I'm surprised you aren't as well, because I know you poured hundreds, well over 100 hours into Elden Ring, if I'm not remembering correctly. So
135.
Talk to me about that a little bit, real quick. Yeah. What did are you still, like me when it comes to these games, or you're ready? It sounds like you're ready for another one. I need a break. I think it's going to take me a year. I think it's going to be, I need another 5 months.
If Elden Ring came out tomorrow, Elden Ring 2 came out tomorrow, I would play it day one.
I would too, but I guess I'm speaking more. I suppose I'm speaking more to not. I don't want to call them knockoffs, but Dark Souls like games.
Right.
The games that we're seeing, such as this, because we're seeing a lot of them kind of trickle out right now. We had talked about them in our first episode,
Right.
that these things are going to start trickling out, over the course of the end of the year, very wisely separating themselves from Bloodborne or Elden Ring, I might say. Now, this game clearly needed the development time, but these games very wisely did not come out anywhere near, the last 6 months. But I don't know, man. I can't do it right now. I can't.
Yeah.
I
No,
can't.
That's understandable. I totally get it. For me, I just have such a fascination with this team in Spiders where I had to pick this up because
Interesting.
just the development this game has made over the last couple of months where it just looked like absolute garbage. Like it really did in that trailer. I was like, oh no, this looks bad. If you're watching the same video I am, which I think it's the link I sent you, this is exactly what I played. It looks and runs exactly like what I just played a couple of hours ago. I literally played it this morning. It's good. It's got that secret sauce where you just want to keep coming back and playing it. I'm telling you, you need to suspend your disbelief a little bit. Okay? There's some texture pop-ins, there's some lagging happening. There's just there's issues. Okay? I'm not going to say there's not. Okay? But the core gameplay, the combat is its biggest strength. The combat's, it's good. It's really good combat, and I was not ready for this. I was ready to play this game, go in on it. How terrible it is, how incomplete it is, but I don't feel that way at all. I feel very similar about this game as I felt about Greedfall, which was, this is a very unique environment. This is a very interesting premise here. It's not like anything I've played before. Maybe the formula is the same, but the locale, the environments are so different. I want to dive right in, and I would have dived into Greedfall more, had I not been in a very busy time in my life. If I had, less going on, I would have played Greedfall a lot longer. But this game, it might be really good. It's either going to be really good or it's going to repeat everything that I've played in the opening hour to death. You know what I mean? And there's no in between. There's just no in between. One little detail about the game that I really like in the combat is there's this overheating mechanic, right? So you can attack and attack and attack, and you have a stamina bar. It's called endurance in this game. And if you run out of stamina, you can't dodge, you don't even get like a slow dodge. You just can't do anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, but what you can do is you can press triangle and refill your entire stamina bar, but you get frosted. Okay? So you get frosted, and if you get frosted too many times, your character freezes up completely. It's called like a cooling agent, right? But yeah, so it's a really interesting mechanic, but your character's back, there's like a gear on your character's back, and it overheats visually, so you know when you're getting close. And it's just a really nice little touch like that. Like we talked about the circle underneath the characters and the mascot platformers. It's one of those where it's like, this is a really good touch.
That sounds cool. That's really cool. That's at least, something unique, and
right.
That's cool. I actually like that concept. I'm watching the gameplay now. I'm waiting for it to happen now, but of course it's not. But that's actually pretty cool.
Vinny, I'm telling you,
cool for a game like this.
I'm telling you, if you can get past the performance issues in this game, this is a game for you. It really is.
I think this is a game. Yeah, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I'm not going to be able to get over the performance issues, but this probably, I think you put it perfectly in saying that for someone like myself, probably wait until it's, number one, cheaper, but probably even more importantly, has a few updates to maybe help, clean some of that stuff up at least. Because you do look at the game, and when I'm watching gameplay segments here, it does look like a game that's been in development for a long time.
Right.
Some of the graphics, some of the textures are not wonderful. They almost look like PS3 textures,
Yes, I
and
agree.
so it's just that to me is not such an issue as the performance of the game itself. If the game is stuttering in its frame rate,
No,
that to me is, yeah.
It's not, though. It's not. It's like I would say it maybe happened 5 times in the hour that I was playing. And it was mainly when I was walking from one area to the next. Like, it was loading in the next area. But it wasn't...
I do see a lot of pop-in. I think that's what's standing out to me the most.
Yeah, but there was pop-in and lag. That was the hard part. It was like both. It was like, this kind of is a little rough. But it didn't take away from the combat, I don't think, at all. So I really like the way that the menus work in this game. I think they're very clean looking, and I think that they do a nice job of showing you everything. One thing I wish that they had was the little information tab in a game like Elden Ring or some of the newer Souls games where you can see what each thing does. Like, what does endurance do? Oh, it's your stamina bar on the bottom. What does strength do? Oh, it will help you upgrade these types of weapons. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had that information, and I looked everywhere for it just to see if it was there, because I was really just sort of nitpicking to see what I could talk about, and I couldn't find it. So that was sort of a bummer to me. Because I looked everywhere, like, what is armor in your defense category is the one I was looking for. Is armor like straight damage negation? Is it physical damage negation? And I'm pretty sure it's physical, but I don't want to make assumptions in a game like this, you know what I mean, where I'm leveling my character, and it's important to me what I put points into. So, but a little bit of a tangent, but so the menus I think are great. The art design is great. The art direction is great. The story is, so far, it's so-so. It's more of an intrusion on my experience, to be honest with you, than anything else. Like, I don't really... I want to care about the story, but I just don't. But this is what I'm saying about Spiders. They have so many strengths and a few weaknesses where... And it's consistent through all of their games. They need... And I know I'm repeating myself, but they need someone to come in there, clean up some of their inconsistencies, and they would be a really, really top-notch studio. They really would. They're so close. They're so close. I really want them to get there. I really do, because I've been following them for a long time now.
It's interesting, man. You can definitely see that the elements are there. 100%,
right, that's what I'm saying.
Based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like they know what they're doing, and I couldn't agree with you more. Based on what I'm at least seeing here, it does look like they just need that one person to come in and clean up some of the elements to make it just a little bit... I don't even know how to describe it, but I think you put it in you put it perfectly in saying that it does look like they need one person to come in, play the game, explain to them, hey, we need to make this look a little better, a little sharper. But the elements are there. It's so funny that you say that, because I'm definitely more impressed with the game now than I was, when we first got that initial impression, because what I'm seeing here does look like a good video game. It doesn't look like trash. This doesn't look like a trash video game. This looks like something that I would probably enjoy as I'm kind of looking at it. But it's just a really interesting game. Really, really interesting.
So just doing some quick research, it seems like the budget for this game is anywhere between 5 million to 10 million euros.
Wow.
So a very small budget. Like I said, they punch way above their weight class. That's what I respect about them. They really, like, this game looks like, if you just look at it really quickly, it looks like a big budget game, does it not?
It does. It does. And it looks like a good game too. Honestly,
it is.
It doesn't look bad.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying.
That's cool.
Like, I'm excited to dive into this when we're done recording. Like, I really am. And I didn't think I'd be saying that.
Yeah, you're going to have to keep us posted on the podcast. Let us know what you think of this going forward after the first few levels, because this does look like something that I might get when it gets a hair cheaper. Just a hair. We're talking $10, $20 maybe cheaper.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
I might pick it up.
Yeah, 40 would have been perfect for this game, but,
Yeah.
gotta respect the developers here for really trying. I can't reiterate that enough. This is not copy-paste something else. Yes, it's the Bloodborne formula, the Souls formula, but whatever. They're going in so many different directions. Really got a lot of respect to Spiders for doing that. And with that being said, we are going to move on to our last topic of the podcast, which is, as always, for your consideration. Vinny is going to be reviewing Psychonauts 2. This is the second part. If you go back to episode 14, Vinny opens up on his Psychonauts 2 impressions. I told him he needs to beat this game. So we gave him another week to really sink his teeth into this one because it's worth sinking your teeth into. But before we get into this, Vinny, you're going to get a new game, okay?
Ooh.
And I'm getting
All right.
sort of creative with these categories. I'm sort of, bending them to my will a little bit here because there's a specific game that I want you to play. And so the topic this time is off genre. And what I mean by this is genres that we don't normally play, don't normally recommend to each other. This could be an RTS. This could be a, spoiler alert, racing game. This could be anything like that, Vinny. So I want you to come up with something.
So not a first-person shooter.
Not a
is what
first-person
I'm getting
shooter or a third-person shooter or an action-adventure game or a mainstream, really big, open-world game. None of those. Something off-genre. Like I said, yours is going to be a racing game. Puyo Puyo
Okay.
Tetris would have been perfect for this. So you're going to have to come up with another one. But, puzzle game will work. RTS, something like that. Something different. Okay? And the game that I selected for that category, which I selected the game before I made up the category. So yes, I'm being fully transparent with that. But whatever. It's our podcast. We can run it how we want, okay? Crash Team Racing.
Ooh, Crash Team Racing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one. That is definitely off genre, as you describe it.
Right.
That is. I haven't played a kart racer in forever.
So this one's a little different because it has a really good campaign mode. Like really good. Like top notch. Do you remember Diddy Kong Racing?
Yeah, so good.
It's up
Similar?
there. It's up there with Diddy Kong Racing. It's not similar in gameplay, but the caliber of single player kart racing, very long list of games that you could describe in that category. But it reminds me of Diddy Kong Racing in that respect. It's like you're just gonna have to play it and report back to us because you have no choice because you're for your consideration. You don't have to beat it or anything, but I just want you to play specifically the campaign. Maybe you decide you want to beat it. It's one of those games that's relaxing and intense at the same time, if that makes any sense. I don't know if it does, but I'm excited for you to play this one.
All right.
Okay, so
Exciting times.
all right, so think of one for me, off-genre game. And without further ado, here is the conclusion. The long-anticipated conclusion of Vinny's Psychonauts 2 review.
Much anticipated, my second half of my review of Psychonauts 2. I'm going to try not to reiterate what I've already said about the game, but forgive me if I do.
Okay.
Because I suppose before I dive into spoilers, I just want to say this real quick. I love this game. I did. I absolutely loved it. You hit the nail right on the coffin in recommending this game to me. Amazing. For those of you that have not played Psychonauts 2, go out and play it. I'm just going to leave it at that before I dive into spoilers. Please go play this game. It is genuinely an amazing, unique experience, unlike anything that you've probably ever played, particularly for those like myself that never played the original Psychonauts. So don't feel like you need to play the original one to appreciate the second. No, you do not at all. You're gonna have a great time if you dive into this game, which now more than ever is probably the best. It's probably cheaper now, now that it's been out for a few months. But with that being said, I'm going to dive right into spoilers because I do have a few notes here from my kind of my closing remarks, if you will, because I don't want to reiterate everything that I said before. The game is amazing. I think for me, I kind of thought about it a little bit more and more. The characters and the environment are the stars of this game. That is the star of this game. It all comes, it all comes from the writing, which is, it is so good. I think when the second half of the game, when I beat it, I think my impressions are, I think the game is better than what I had experienced in the first 6 hours, to be honest with you, based on like when I finally finished it and I got to let everything kind of soak in, because there's a lot in this game. This game took me like 15 hours to beat. It was like 15 and a half, 16 hour range. I couldn't believe it. But I was worried like when we had discussed it last week that it was going to be too long. I think it's the perfect length. I don't think that's a problem whatsoever. The game never gets repetitive. It does a really good job of not getting repetitive. And a lot of times with these action sort of platformers, these, the games that I've played, at least, there's that repetitive element that can come into play where you're kind of doing the same thing over and over again. But another thing that I wrote down here, I have some notes as I was kind of closing out the game, because I was on the Jack Black level when we picked up last week when I was there. But anyways, I'd written on here that I have never been on acid, but I imagine that's exactly what this feels like. This game is bonkers.
Right. Yeah.
This game is crazy. The art style in this game is insane. And it's almost like you just go further and further down this rabbit hole.
Right.
And I talked about it last week where I just couldn't wait to see what sort of environment I was going to go to next. That was the most exciting part for me personally, and I'm sure other people are right there with me, because the environments they're not only unique, they're beautiful too. I was just as impressed with this game with its graphics, probably a quarter of the budget, than I was with Ratchet and Clank. They're unique sort of art styles. I was just as satisfied with this, and I'm going to go as far as to say and this might be controversial on this podcast in particular, because it's a PlayStation podcast, I think I like this more than Ratchet and Clank, than the most recent one. I think I enjoyed this game more than I liked the last Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah, that's better.
I think this game, I think the writing and the characters and the environments that you go to are just really top tier. Some of the standout sequences for me personally, and you could speak maybe to some of the ones that stood out to you. For me, it was mostly the boss sequences. The bosses are awesome in this game. They're really cool.
Special.
Obviously special. the entire Jack Black sequence where you're finding his senses and he's talking to you. I couldn't believe that it was Jack Black. That's an obvious one that stood out because it's Jack Black and everybody loves him. And his relationship with Tim Schafer obviously came into play there. And his character is so perfect for the game. Like it is Jack Black. Like the fact that he's in this band and you're bringing back all of his memories to remind him that he was in this band. There's a whole musical sequence where he sings a number. It is so out of this world. It really took a turn to where I was like, what the fuck am I playing? And I love it. You know what I mean? Like I must have said, what the hell am I playing?
Yeah.
And loved it like every single time. Early in the game as well, the Lady Octopus Casino, the octopus boss battle. That was when I said, okay, this game's really special. Like that was when I realized like, okay, like I had liked what I played up to that point, and I thought it was really cool. Amazing introduction sequence with kind of like the Inception style heist that you do at the beginning of the game. But It was really the Lady Octopus for me personally, where I said, okay, like this is special. This is different. This is something that I really haven't seen. The animations, she's kind of flipping through her cards. I don't even know how to describe it. The animation detail is so cool. So really, really good. Another boss battle. Also the Jack Black panic attack. I don't know if you remember that when his character's having a panic attack. There's literally a boss battle of him having a panic attack. You're fighting like 15 of the Jack Black guitarist character.
Remember that.
That's a really cool one. Yeah, it's like a whole, I don't know if it was pronounced a boss battle, but it goes, oh, he's having a panic attack and Jack Black's trying to calm him down. Really cool sequence there. The boss battle, I don't know if you remember the character Bob, but you go into Bob's mind. He's the old guy that almost looks like Santa Claus, like not
Yeah.
the white beard.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
a big
yeah.
fat guy with the
Yeah.
mustache.
Yeah.
And you plant that seed into the ground. There is a boss battle. That was, I don't want to say it was the best boss battle in the game, but it was definitely right there, where you're fighting the potted plants that are in the middle of just this almost tsunami surrounding the plants, and they're all attacking you one at a time. I don't know if you remember that specific boss battle, but I was like, whoa, this is really, really cool. The boss battles, cannot say enough good things about them. The game's amazing, dude. I loved every second of it. I really did. The platforming elements are really good. The game, I'm going back to my original point that the game is always fresh. Like, it always introduces new, unique concepts to it. I'm thinking about the game as I'm talking about it. There was a sequence where you're kind of like flipping through the pages of a book. Your character's in the book, and you're doing platforming levels in the book. It is, dude, the game's all over the place. It is so unique. Very Tim Burton, the art style. I talked about that last week. I won't regurgitate that, but one thing that stuck with me that you had mentioned was this game was crowdfunded, which was interesting. And I actually did my own research on the game because I was curious after I had finally,
was this
or
one,
at least when
this
I was
one was
about to
crowdfunded?
beat it. This one was crowdfunded.
Oh, I was talking about
so
a different
funny enough.
game. Yeah, I didn't know this one was crowdfunded.
Yeah, this one was originally crowdfunded for like $4 million, I want to say, very low budget. And funny enough, they actually, I don't want to say mismanaged the budget, but I don't really know any other way to put it. But they ran out of money in 2018, and Microsoft picked it up and gave them all the money that they needed and said, just, figure it out. So,
Microsoft has the money to do that.
I know we don't like Microsoft on this podcast, but let's at least, give credit where credit's due, because they did. They gave them all the money that they needed, and
Xbox
and
Game
they
Studios
picked up the
published
Double
this.
Fine.
So it was really
And
weird
so-
seeing Xbox Game Studios when I played the PS4
Really weird.
version of this game. It was super weird.
Really, really weird.
Yeah.
Really mind-boggling. So let's give credit where credit's due. But I'm glad this wasn't a Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts situation where you have a beloved game, that I think that's actually probably a pretty good comparison, because, the original Banjo-Kazooie games were so beloved. Nuts and Bolts came out. It didn't feel like the right sequel. It didn't feel like a continuation of those older games. And you had said this game feels like it picks right up where Psychonauts 1 left off.
It
It feels like almost the same game. It feels like a true, proper sequel that everybody wanted. So I'm glad that happened. But I can't say enough good things, man. I loved, honestly, every part about it. If I was to complain about one thing, I will say this. There's one small gripe that I do have about this game, and it's its combat. I don't know if the combat is the star of the game. This is not like a... And I would also go as far as to say the platforming as well. It could just feel a little off, like a hair. Like this is not like a Crash Bandicoot, 4, where gameplay is king. It just feels a little bit off. I don't know if you felt this way, but for me, it was the dodging mechanic. A lot of times, maybe it's because I'm so used to Bloodborne and games like this, where you could dodge when you're still in the enemy's proximity when they do an attack. And even if you're in their proximity, you'll still dodge it, like your character, like if you time it right. In Psychonauts, you have to be outside of the character's like attack move. So I found myself constantly getting hit when I would try to time the dodge perfectly, like as soon as they would attack, and I'd always get hit every single time. It happened every single time throughout the entirety of this damn game. So the combat, I wasn't in love with the combat.
I replayed
the different powers that you get are cool. That's for sure.
I replayed the first game. I replayed the first game right before I played the second game, in like anticipation of the second game, and to me, the combat was really good, and the platforming was really, really good. But again, I had come from the first game, so maybe something just got lost in translation with some of the other games.
I'm not even saying it's bad. I'm really not even saying that it's bad. I think it's good, if not great. I just think the way that I play games, it was just throwing me off throughout the entirety of the game. It was nothing that, prevented me from enjoying any of the combat sequences. I just think the combat for me wasn't the star of the game, and it shouldn't be. I don't think that they intended the combat to be the star of this game. The star is the characters in the world. But the combat's good. It's good.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't think. Yeah,
I agree with
I think
that.
from a combat standpoint, that Ratchet and Clank, and I'm comparing this game to Ratchet and Clank for some reason, but that's kind of where my mind goes with this game, I guess, because they both came out this year, or at least within the last year. So I do think that Ratchet and Clank is a better combat, has better combat. But other than that, I love this game. I think it was amazing. The final boss is really cool too, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. I'm gonna pronounce. Let me pull her name up.
Maligula.
Maligula. Yeah, and you grow to like this monstrosity size with her, and then you can breathe fire. It's really cool. Very unique. I can't say enough good things, dude. The worlds. I have such respect for Double Fine now. This is a really special game. It is. It straight up is. I'm assuming that people that are still listening have played it already. Maybe not. Maybe they're listening to me and thinking, should I pick this up? Go pick this game up. This game's amazing.
So
amazing. So that's kind of that's where my thoughts are. What's up? What are you thinking?
I'm curious. What was your favorite level or sequence? If you could,
I'll be
if you could
honest
pick
with
one.
you. There's so many that are going through my head right now. The opening sequence with the teeth is really, really cool. I'll be honest with you, the Jack Black sequence to me was the real standout. There's also that cooking world where you're kind of like you're going, like the dude is a cook or a chef or something, and then I think there's actually like a boss battle
like a
with
game
with
show.
the chefs. It's
Yeah,
and it's a
love
game
that
show.
one. I love that one.
Really cool. And then there's the boss battle with the judges, and it's really creative, very cool. That was probably it's hard for me to pick one.
The game's
that's
really funny too.
That's
isn't it?
really
The humor is
hilarious.
It's so good.
Really good. So good. The writing is unbelievable. It really is. This is exactly like this game. I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again because it's very true. Like you have a smile playing it the entire time, and you get that warm, fuzzy feeling of my childhood when I was playing this game. Like it felt like I was a kid again.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think for me personally, though, it would probably be the Jack Black world. I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I think it's just because I didn't expect Jack Black to be in the game. I didn't even know he was going to be in there, and I was playing it, and I heard his voice the first few times, and I was like, I know this guy. Like I was trying to figure out who the hell it was, and then he
you
did
didn't
like
know
a
it was
little.
Jack Black?
Not immediately. I didn't know, and I think it was because I wasn't playing the game with headphones, and then I don't know. I picked up on it after like a few minutes, and then I immediately. Oh no, I was not playing with headphones, and then I put on the headphones because I realized it was Jack Black, and I didn't want to miss any of the lines. So that's exactly what it was. It was a really cool moment.
super
So
funny.
I loved it, dude. I can't believe you don't remember his panic attack. He had like
I
it was like
remember
a whole thing. It was really cool. It was a really cool sequence.
I remember fighting a panic attack. I remember that. It's like one of the enemy types,
yeah.
but I don't remember him specifically having like
he has
extra one.
Oh, no, it's not a panic attack. It's a sensory overload, or it's something of those lines. It might have been referred to as a panic attack.
Okay,
but it's when all of his senses are going crazy and he has to go to like a quiet place. Really cool sequence. Really cool. Very, very. Oh,
I don't think I remember that, but
It is such a good game.
One thing I will say about Psychonauts 2, and you brought it up already, the variety. The reason why the game is so the variety's so good is because the core concept of the game serves it to be that way.
Perfectly.
I can't reiterate this enough. The game conceptually is so good. You're jumping into people's minds and decluttering all this shit in their head. And it's like, of course everybody's mind would be personified in a different way. It is, and it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant from start to finish. And I know I said this last week, but I think it would be really hard to screw up a game. I mean, you could definitely screw it up. But it's, the better the concept is, the easier the execution is, because you can just like sort of let your creative juices flow, in my opinion. That's all I'm saying.
It's a good point. It's definitely a good point, and kudos to Double Fine. and let me ask you this, because I never played the first game. The first game better than this one? The same?
No, the first game's not even close to this one. This one's so much better. Yeah, it's
so
just
this game was leaps and bounds.
The first game's amazing, but the problem is you have so many more restrictions on a PS2 than you do on a PS4 that they were really just able to let everything loose in this one, So, graphics isn't always a good indicator of how amazing a game is, but in this case, the art style really serves the higher resolution and more things on the screen, and because you can add so many different creative elements to the game in that way. So I think it had that going for it. Also, the final boss in the first game is one of the most annoying bosses I've ever played ever. So you didn't miss anything there.
Oh boy. Yeah, man. You definitely knew I was gonna like this game, and I loved it. Like, I could see exactly why. It's hard not to like this game.
Right.
So,
we don't usually do number grades, right? But you said last week this game is an 8. It might even be a 9. If you had to give it a number grade, what would you give it?
We may have to start just doing number grades. I feel like we always during
it
these,
might
we're
just
like,
be.
oh well, I don't do number grades, but we've said it we've given
we do
every
say that
game
every
up to
week.
this point a number. We've given every game up to this point a number. So maybe we just start doing the damn number grades. Well, it's definitely a 9. Yeah, I'm close to a 10 if I'm being honest with you. It's very close to a 10. I think I would do a 9 just because the combat itself, for me, I think it's as good as it can be, to be honest with you. For me personally, it wasn't perfect. Okay. Right. It was great, but it wasn't perfect for someone like me. And that's probably unique to me personally. I'm curious to see if anybody else has that problem. Probably not, but I think I'm at a 9, a solid 9, rock solid.
Yeah.
So the game's amazing. The game is amazing. So I can't, no.
Well,
I can see exactly why you gave it to me.
Here's another one. Where does it rank in For Your Considerations? Because apparently you're glowing about it. So I want to know, is this the best For Your Consideration? Is that Crash 4?
Well, it's obviously between this and Crash 4.
Right.
I think I like this more than Crash 4. Wow. I'll be honest with you. Crash 4.
Wow.
I don't know. It's very close. It's
hard.
Like, we're talking like hairs.
You're splitting hairs.
I think I liked this one more. I think I did. Crash 4 towards the end just became infuriating because it was so brutal. I didn't really have that experience with this game, so I think that's what gave it the nod here.
See, I disagree with that sentiment in Crash 4 because that's what made it so good at the end, was how frustrated I was. It was like
double-edged sword.
I guess I'm just like a masochist or something, but it was just so fun for me that everything, whatever. We'll talk about that another time, but everything just came together so brilliantly. All right, Vinny. So that's about it for this episode of the PS Blue podcast. Random game that you're in the mood for playing. We haven't done that in a couple weeks.
Oh, random game that I'm in the mood for playing. Oh, you caught me off guard there. You got to give me one of yours.
Okay. Mine is going to be Spyro the Dragon, the original one on the PlayStation 1.
Damn. Wow. I've never played that game. Never. I'll go ahead and say I don't have a
I got one. I got a better one. I got a better one than that. I got 2. It's so funny because last time we did this, you had like 3 just bam, bam, bam.
I know, back to back to back. Yeah.
Mine is Cooking Mama. Do you remember Cooking Mama?
Was that the one? Wait, Cooking Mama.
Yeah, that was the one.
Which one was that?
It was on the Nintendo DS, and you played with like the stylus, and you chopped up like salmon and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember that?
That game came out forever. You know what I could go for now that you mention it? I'm just playing. Now that you mentioned Cookie Mama, wow, that game came out forever ago.
Yeah.
That just brought back some memories. I could go for some, what are those games called? Backyard Baseball? Whatever happened to those games?
Yes.
What happened to those games?
I don't know.
Those games were amazing. Gone?
There was always that one short kid was so OP.
Yeah, Pablo Sanchez. He was I think it was
there
Pablo
was another
Sanchez.
There was him, but there was another one. I don't remember. Right in if you remember the OP characters in Backyard Baseball.
Yeah, let us know, please.
All right.
Yeah,
so with that being said, Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. We will see you back for episode 16 of the PS Blue podcast. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.